Okay, so now you've got your data logger set up and you know your IP address that goes out to the world, sometimes known as your WAN IP address, and the port number that your data is coming through. So what does this look like in QREST? So this is the public site. You go to Secure Dashboard, and that brings up this. We've been looking at site 0020, which is Shoshone Bannock. And so this comes up in the Monitor Quick View here. If they had multiple parameters at this site, you could click this drop-down box and it gives you a quick view of where your data are in terms of the last time the data was polled, last time it was reviewed for AQS, and the last 24 hours of data, in this case, PM10. So we want to look at the site and the polling from the site. So how do we do that? We go over here to Agency, Sites. Then select your site if there's more than one site in your agency, and that pulls up this panel, this Edit Site panel. So what's on the left site in terms of this Edit Site panel here is fairly straightforward. This is important here, the AQS Site ID. And this is especially important if you're going to import monitors from AQS. So when you first establish this site, you save it, and then this panel over here opens up that allows you to either import the monitors from AQS that are already established in there, import a few of them, because a lot of times AQS has, for well-established programs, old monitors that aren't even in use anymore. So you can click this button and select what monitors you are using, or if you wanted to add a monitor that is not in AQS, or even add a parameter that's not a NACS parameter that you would report to AQS, but is like a supporting parameter, such as, for example, a TOM filter loading. If you want to keep a close eye on that, you can map that into QREST and then not report that to AQS, obviously. So once you get your site established and you've imported some monitors from AQS, you can set up alerting here. At this site, Lori Howell and Keith both get notifications, however they've set it up in QREST, to get a text or to get an email. If there's something that exceeds whatever parameters they've set up at QREST for their site, like if the data are lost, or if the connectivity is lost, or if the data spike suddenly to a value greater from the last record that you've set up in QREST. So you can set this up how you want to get notifications, and you can add other users. Right now, Lori's admin for this site, and they can add users, as many as they want, for at different roles, because you own your data in QREST and you administer this. We're always available to help, of course. So now down here, how do you get to the data and the polling configuration? So down here, data connectivity. So if you check this box, enable automatic data retrieval, that means you want QREST to send and say, hello, hello, what data are coming out? And if you check this box down here, enable real-time sharing, that makes the data available to air now. The data gets sent to air now on a regular schedule, as well as shows your data on the public website here. So what we want to do is click this config polling button. When you click that button, that pulls up this site poll config screen. And you can have multiple polling. You can have polling set up for automatic retrieval from different kinds of instruments. For example, if you change instruments, or you have to go back and forth, or you work with another agency and you retrieve data from their data logger, or for if you're just manually importing the data too, of course. Right now, there's only one polling configuration set up, and it's working really well. So the connectivity here is where you tell QREST this IP source, this logger, this IP address, the logger source. And you can see if I put my cursor over here, it's saying, hey, 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 you cannot edit that. So if you want to make changes, you have to take it offline and allow editing. If you do that, make sure to resume polling and check to make sure that your data are going through again. So if you want to make changes, you have to take offline and allow editing. This is the QREST production site. This is real data. I am not going to do any editing of Keith and Lori's site here. So sometimes your logger has a username and password. Obviously that has to be in QREST. And in this case, there is a password. And once you set this up so that there's a logger source, which is an IP address, and a port number, then you save. Then when you save, this panel over here opens up. So here we are pulling 5-minute data. The data comes off comma delimited, and I'll show you in a second how we know that. What is the local time zone? But does your logger output in that time zone? No, in this case, it's UTC. And that you just have to be aware of when you look at your data to remember it's not going to be on the local time zone. In this case, it's going to show up universal transmercator time. And we know from looking at our data, which I'll show you in a second, the date column comes off in column 2. This is the date format. The time is in column 3, and this is the time format, hour, minute, second. Once you get this established, then you start to map the columns. And in this case, we see, okay, QREST is expecting 8/11/02 PM 10. That's coming out in column 13. Okay, so how do we know that? Well, up here is this little blue button that says options. And if you click that, there's a drop down and you can ping the connection. You can download a file template in Excel that shows you whatever columns you've mapped with the format for date and time, or you can look at the log and see what's happening. Somebody changed something and you can see what has been changed in the site poll config screen. So we're going to just click on ping connection. And when you click that, this monitor ping panel shows up. And you can communicate with your data logger and just say ping only. And if you do that, then it gives you this little status report of what it's done. It says, okay, so I successfully connected. I entered the password because this particular Xeno needs a password. And that's it. I pinged success, bye, and I disconnected. Now, if you want to look at the records, you click here, retrieve data, and that looks like this. So you had clicked retrieve data, and you could say last 5 records, last 200 records. Obviously, the more records you retrieve, the longer this will take. And perhaps you don't want to retrieve too many records because you don't want to mess up the regular every 5-minute polling to QREST. So I selected the last 5 records, and that pulls up this. Now, if you're like me, this is really, I mean, maybe you're really great at counting commas to count column numbers, but I always just take this, Control C, open up Excel and paste it into Excel. And that looks like this, which is a lot easier to read. So you can see the data come off, and I just map the column numbers here. And in column number 2 is the date in year, month, day format. Today's May 21st, 2021. And then the time column is in column 3, hour, minute, second. And the data are in column 13. And the value right at 2:30 in the afternoon was 9.27. Then 5 minutes later, 9.26, then 9.25 and 9.25. So let's look in QREST at that data and make sure that that's what QREST is thinking too. So this is accessed by looking at your raw data, and I selected 5-minute data because that's what this is in. It goes 1445, 1450, 1455. So when we look at the raw data, we selected 5-minute, and then remember UTC time, the data come off in. So let's just look at this. So 1430 was exactly 2:30, and we've got 9.27. Then 1435, 9.26, 9.26, 9.25. Let's just verify that's what we had here. Yes, 9.27, 26, 25, 25 for these 5-minute intervals. So that's super exciting. Now we know how the data are coming off. And this is just exactly how you could connect with your data logger and map your data into QREST. It's really, really straightforward. We do have SOPs that are in a public Dropbox folder, so you can download any of them and modify them for your purposes. We also have a folder called AQS references because we need to make sure that as QREST administrators, here at the Tribal Air Monitoring Support Center, we keep all those codes up to date, and I'll periodically put them into this folder where you can access them too, like all those method codes and method detection limits columns. All that will be in this AQS references folder, but also in QREST, as your agency admin, you will have the opportunity to look at whatever codes are the most recent from AQS by going to the admin feature in QREST. ITAP TAMS is the overall administrator of the whole QREST website. We'll continue to pay the cloud storage fees and support you in your connection to QREST. It's really often easiest just to do it one-on-one. Or if you really know what you're doing in your public IP address, you can go in here and set this up yourself. Thank you very much for listening. Please let us know what you'd like QREST to do and what kind of reports you'd like it to do, because we want to make this your tool designed by you and your needs. Thank you.